Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contract, service is month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Money Podcast, your source for all things money. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, today I have Rana Vig on the line. He's president and CEO over at Blue Lagoon Resources. Rana, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, Adam. Thanks for having me.
All right, Rana. So I'm excited to get into today's topic. So we're going to get into, of course, what you're doing over at Blue Lagoon Resources, and I also want to talk about your Dome Mountain project. But before we get into these things, I'd like to start off with your background, just for some context. So how did you get started really in business and on this path?
Sure. Well, most of my life, Adam, I've been in private enterprise, over 30 years of private family businesses. Basically, I'm a startup guy. My method of operation is just to be the dumbest guy in the room. I like to, whatever industry I get into, I want to surround myself with, very, very bright people. That's served me well over the years. So I've had 5 different startups in family businesses, all in different verticals. Over 30 years. And then about 10 years ago, a very successful venture capitalist, a friend of mine, worth well over $300 million, made most of his money in mining, and came to me and said, why don't you get out of your private world and come into the exciting world of the capital markets with me? And, 2008, 2009 kind of had just happened, that financial crisis. And I was looking for a change. So I said, yeah, hey, show me the ropes and let's go. So I got involved in the capital markets in late 2010 and 11, put over $1 million into the markets and into mining. And believe it or not, about 6 months later, it was worth about $10,000. I was like, holy smokes, what did I get myself into? That wasn't exactly the plan, right? But the mining sector collapsed. It's no one's fault. These things happen. So, hey, that's the exciting fast lane of entrepreneurship, right? It's not for the faint at heart, but, I hung in there and took over a couple of companies, mining exploration companies, and learned the ropes, so to speak, made a lot of contacts and learned how the capital markets worked, and eventually cleaned up those companies and moved on. In 2017, the cannabis sector became extremely hot, so I laser beam focused on that. And one of the beauties about this business, if you stick to it and you do the right things, you will make everything that you lost and more. So I was able to take the largest cannabis company to go public in Canada in history, a company called Curaleaf. It was a $520 million raise, a $6 billion RTO. So that was very, 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 very proud to be able to be associated with that. And then a couple months later, I had another opportunity. I found a company out of Arizona called Harvest Health and Recreation. That became the 3rd largest of 2018, a $300 million raise and a $2 billion RTO. So yeah, it was a very, very exciting time. So that's kind of my short little 1 minute on kind of where I've been and how I got here, and here I am now, and focusing on the mining sector because everything that I was reading was telling me that mining is going to be the next big play, particularly gold. And so I'm laser beam focused on that, and hope to make this one my next big win.
Man, that's awesome, and thank you for sharing that. And I think that's a great transition. So let's just dive right into Blue Lagoon Resources. Tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
Yeah, so I started this company a little over a year ago, much to the surprise of my associates who were still focused on, like cannabis and some other industries. But everything I was reading told me the macro picture, the macroeconomics that gold had to take off because of everything that was happening around the world with, unprecedented printing of money and the devaluations of currencies around the world. So I decided to start Blue Lagoon Resources, and we started trading in July of 2019, and really focused on acquiring projects and starting to build a company. And in a very short time, in 10 months, I made 3 acquisitions and started to build a portfolio of projects. And I'm very bullish and very excited about it because I think that we're just in the first inning of where the precious metals are headed.
Man, that's exciting, and I think that's also speaking of where they're headed or where you see. I mean, gold trading at all-time high. I mean, I'm going to ask you that proverbial loaded question. Do we have room to go higher? I mean, where are we going with this thing?
Oh, absolutely. I think that we're just beginning. And look, it's not just me, right? I mean, a lot more smarter people than me are talking about this in organizations that have access to unlimited research and data. So, organizations like Bank of America just recently came out and projected that they expect gold to be $3,000 next year. So I think we're just beginning. And look, this is not rocket science, right? I mean, the governments around the world, not just here, in Canada and the United States, but all over the world. I mean, they're in trouble, right? Debt levels are at all-time highs. You've got, so they've got to do something, right? They've got to, there's only one thing they know how to do. Ever since 2008, 2009, this quantitative easing has become the norm, right? QE forever. It's here to stay. Mm-hmm. And, it's like we're addicted, right? An addict needs what? Constantly needs more and more to stay at the same level. And that's what's happening here, right? Governments are addicted. People are addicted to this free money. So as they print more and more, this is the environment that gold loves. And so gold is just beginning, and I fully believe that $3,000 next year is absolutely doable. And I expect in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll see a $5,000 level.
Man, that's it. That's exciting stuff, and kudos to you for positioning you well and your investors to take advantage of this rise. And speaking of that, I want to go into one of your projects. So Dome Mountain. Tell us a little bit more about the project and what it entails.
Yeah, Dome Mountain is a very exciting project. We acquired it about 6 months ago, and we've just laser beam focused on it. It's very exciting because it's in British Columbia, northern British Columbia, so it's a very safe jurisdiction, very important in mining. It's a all-year accessible project, so we don't have to only work there for 2 or 3 months. We can work on there all year round, which is also very important in mining. And it's a very close to a town, about a 45, 50-minute drive. Miners can go there and work all day, come home and have dinner with their families. I mean, that becomes a very important factor for cost as well as retaining the right talent. But the 2 or 3 key things with the project is that it's already permitted. Adam, in most of these properties, it takes 20 years from the time you start to acquire a property to by the time you drill it, you find something, and you take a production. Well, I got very, very lucky here, right? Because the people who had owned this before had already spent $28 million over the last dozen years on getting this stuff permitted and building all the mine infrastructure around it. $40 million before that had been spent before they got there. So lots of money's been spent on it. Unfortunately for them, age caught up to them. They're wonderful people. They're 83 years old now and not in the best of health. So they literally got this thing to the 1 yard line with all the permits that they required to commence production, but they just couldn't get it across because there were 3 or 4 key things that still needed to finish. And along we came and acquired it, and we're just working on those things. And not onerous. It only requires about $1.5 million Canadian, about 1.2 US to get those things done. And we're already working on that. We're fully cashed up. We have $7.5 million in treasury, so we have the capital required to execute on the plan. So that's the one part that's very exciting, that we have a permit to get this thing into production. And then, it's a vast property, about 12,000 hectares, and 90% of that property has never been explored.
Whoa, hold on. Say that again? That's huge.
Yeah, it's almost 12,000 hectares. It's a huge property. Yeah, and only 10% of it has ever been explored because this was a private company, and their focus was just to try to get this thing into production. Unfortunately for them, timing wasn't good. In business, I'm sure timing. It's all about timing, right? They were unfortunately at the wrong place at the wrong time because gold was around $1,200-$1,300, a few years ago, and nobody was that excited about it. Now here we are, gold 1,900 plus, headed to over 2,000, and the market is hot, and things are exciting, and investment is pouring into the sector.
What do you so how long until you expect production, everything to be fully running over at Dome Mountain to get this producing?
So we have a between a 4 to 6 month program to get the amendments done, and then after that, it's just a matter of working with the regulators and showing them that we've done everything that they've asked us to do. So it's these things are always a little bit tricky to predict, but if everything goes according to plan and with a little bit of cushion room, I fully expect to be in a position to make a production decision by next summer.
Wow, so you weren't joking. You are at the 1 yard line. You're seeing it, you're tasting it. You're like, let's get this ball in the end zone, huh?
Oh, it's amazing. It's just when we went up there with our technical team, we just couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe all the infrastructure that's already in place. Because often when you acquire these mines, they're like 100 years old. So all the infrastructure has to be updated. But here, I mean, most of this infrastructure was built in the last 10 years. So the generators, the mechanic shops, everything is current. So we're literally at the 1 yard line and ready to get this thing into production. And timing couldn't be better because as we head into the last part of this year and early next year, gold is fully expected to rise. And look at what's happening in our lifetimes. I don't think anyone can remember a time when you had this kind of unprecedented printing of money, when you had riots and demonstrations going on all over the world, and on top of it, you got this world pandemic. I mean, this is the environment that gold, this kind of destabilization is what really gold thrives on. So we're sitting in the middle of a perfect storm here, the perfect trifactor, right? If you like, right? It's an unprecedented time, a time when generational wealth is created if people get in at the right time.
Man, that's a great term too, and that is true because not always there's not always an opportunity to create generational wealth. Not on investing and not on being at the right in the right time and the right cycle. It's not always possible. So I think that's a great point. So Rana, that being said, I can talk to you about this all day long, and I have many more questions about Dome Mountain, and I know you have plenty of other projects going and other things that are all falling under your company. But that being said, we're about out of time on this one. So Rana, if somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more about Blue Lagoon Resources, about the Dome Mountain project, or about any of the other projects that you have going, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best would be to go on our website, bluelagoonresources.com. There's lots of information there, and also if they want more, they're welcome to click on the email link there. Eventually, it'll make its way to me, and I'm happy to. I'm a very engaged CEO. I love talking to shareholders, big or small, and happy to answer any of their questions. And then we can take it from there. In Canada, we trade under the symbol BLLG. And in the U.S., our ticker is BLAGF.
Fantastic. Well, Rana, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background. Really interesting. Love to see a serial entrepreneur out there, had some big wins, and now in mining, and got your project Dome Mountain at the 1 yard line. This is an awesome story. I look forward to following it and seeing the next thing. We're going to have you back on the show again. I'm excited to talk more about this. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Money, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Rana, thanks again for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.